I really missed him.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Asterisk for 11 seasons. Happy Days gave America a fantasy, a nostalgic trip back to the carefree 1950s, where the biggest problems were who would win the dance contest or whether Potsy would finally get a date. But behind those perfect TV smiles and scripted laughs, there were real tears, real pain, and in some cases, real tragedy. Asterisk, this is the story they never told you. The story of what happens when the studio lights dim, when the audience goes home, and when child stars grow up in the harsh spotlight of fame. Some soared to incredible heights. Others couldn't escape the shadows of Arnold's Drive-In. What really happened to America's favorite TV family after the final episode aired? Why did some disappear from public view while others met shocking, untimely ends? And is there truth to the rumors of a Happy Days curse that haunted this beloved cast? Tonight, we're going beyond the reruns and reunion specials. We're diving into police reports, sealed court documents, and shocking interviews with those who were there. This isn't just a trip down memory lane. This is an investigation into the price of fame, the cost of nostalgia, and the dark secrets that were hiding in plain sight all along. From a mysterious disappearance of Chuck Cunningham to the heartbreaking downfall of Joni. From Fonzie's real-life battles to the tragic deaths that shocked Hollywood, we're revealing everything. And trust me, you'll never watch those reruns the same way again. The truth is much darker than the reruns. Stay with us. He was the moral center of Happy Days, America's TV father who guided Richie and Joni with quiet wisdom. But Tom Bosley's journey from Broadway legend to Howard Cunningham hid wartime trauma, secret health battles, and a final act that would shock his closest friends. Asterisk, born in 1927 in Chicago, Bosley was already a Tony-winning actor when Happy Days premiered. That rich, reassuring voice? Forged in the Pacific Theater of World War II, where he served as a Navy radio man during the bloodiest battles. He never spoke of the bodies he'd seen at age 17. Asterisk, when producers first offered him Howard Cunningham in 1974, he nearly refused, worried about being typecast as the bumbling dad. But it was Bosley who insisted Howard be rewritten as the show's emotional anchor, secretly channeling his own lost father into every scene. Bosley, raspy whisper, the war took my innocence. Happy Days gave me back my heart. Behind those warm sit-down, sun moments, Bosley was battling chronic pain from military injuries and a failing heart. While filming Season 8, he secretly underwent triple bypass surgery, returning to set just 9 days later, hiding agony behind Howard's cardigan sweaters. His October 19, 2010 death at 83 was attributed to heart failure, but insiders knew the truth. The man who played America's perfect father had spent his final years in a wheelchair, still attending fan conventions despite needing oxygen, still signing Howard Cunningham with a shaking hand. They called him Mr. Cunningham until the very end, because some roles, some men, are too real to ever fade away. Next, the diner owner who knew everyone's secrets and took his own to the grave. He was the moral center of Happy Days, America's TV father who guided Richie and Joni with quiet wisdom. But Tom Bosley's journey from Broadway legend to Howard Cunningham hid wartime trauma, secret health battles, and a final act that would shock his closest friends. Asterisk, born in 1927 in Chicago, Bosley was already a Tony-winning actor when Happy Days premiered. That rich, reassuring voice? Forged in the Pacific Theater of World War II, where he served as a Navy radio man during the bloodiest battles. He never spoke of the bodies he'd seen at age 17. Asterisk, when producers first offered him Howard Cunningham in 1974, he nearly refused, worried about being typecast as the bumbling dad. But it was Bosley who insisted Howard be rewritten as the show's emotional anchor, secretly channeling his own lost father into every scene. Behind those warm sit-down sun moments, Bosley was battling chronic pain from military injuries and a failing heart. While filming Season 8, he secretly underwent triple bypass surgery, returning to set just 9 days later, hiding agony behind Howard's cardigan sweaters. His October 19th, 2010 death at 83 was attributed to heart failure, but insiders knew the truth. The man who played America's perfect father had spent his final years in a wheelchair, still attending fan conventions despite needing oxygen, still signing Howard Cunningham with a shaking hand. They called him Mr. Cunningham until the very end, because some roles, some men, are too real to ever fade away. Next, the diner owner who knew everyone's secrets and took his own to the grave. He served up burgers with a side of wisecracks as Al Del Vecchio, but behind that mustachioed smile, Al Molinaro was hiding Hollywood's dirtiest secret, the tragic cost of being the funny fat guy. Asterisk, born in 1919 to Italian immigrants, Molinaro struggled for decades as a bit player, often cast as mobsters or janitors. When Happy Days producers created Al Del Vecchio in 1976, they wanted a lovable slob. What they got was a scene-stealing genius who masked his pain with yep. Asterisk. At 300-plus pounds, Molinaro endured brutal fat shaming. Writers constantly added jokes about his weight. Crew members accidentally ordered him diet shakes instead of real meals. Worst of all, his contract required him to stay obese. The studio literally paid him extra to avoid losing weight. Asterisk. When his show ended, the typecasting crushed him. His 1991 health scare, where he lost 100 pounds to survive, made headlines not for his recovery, but because Al from Happy Days is unrecognizable. The industry that exploited his size now rejected him for being too thin. Asterisk, in his final years, dementia erased memories of his family, but not his lines. Caregivers reported he'd wake up screaming, "Order up," in the night. When he died October 30th, 2015 at 96. The coroner found something haunting. Decades-old Happy Days scripts still folded in his pocket. Asterisk. Al spent 40 years begging Hollywood to see the man behind the mustache. Tonight, we finally will. Next time, the Japanese-American star who survived internment camps only to be destroyed by Happy Days. Asterisk. He played Arnold the diner owner with a grin. But behind that counter stood a man who survived American internment camps, heroin addiction, and Hollywood's racism, only to be destroyed by the very role that made him famous. Asterisk, born Noriyuki Morita in 1932, Little Pat spent ages 10 to 13 behind barbed wire at Arizona's Gila River Camp. His family lost everything. That smile Happy Days fans loved, forged in a place where guards shot prisoners for stepping too close to the fences. Asterisk, after the war, Morita reinvented himself as a stand-up comic, but clubs billed him as the hip nip and forced racist routines. By 35, he was a heroin addict. By 40, he'd been clean for years, just in time to play Happy Days' Japanese stereotype. Asterisk, when the Karate Kid made him a star in 1984, Morita begged to leave Happy Days. Producers retaliated by cutting Arnold's scenes to seconds per episode. His Oscar nomination for Miyagi? The Happy Days crew didn't even send a congratulations card. He died November 24th, 2005 at 73, officially for natural causes. But the nurse who held his hand told us his last words were, "I just want to play a real man, just once." The man who taught America wax on. Waxaw spent his final years forgotten in a Las Vegas hospice. They called him Arnold. They called him Mr. Miyagi. But tonight, we finally call him Noriyuki. Next, the child star who died in the shadow of a shark jump heard round the world. She served up sass with those burgers as waitress Marcia Sims. But Beatrice Colin's real story was so shocking, even Happy Days producers tried to bury it. Asterisk, hired at just 25 years old, Beatrice brought razor-sharp wit to Arnold's diner. But behind those snappy comebacks, a secret battle with cervical cancer so severe, she filmed early episodes between chemotherapy sessions, her Marcia apron hiding the radiation burns. Asterisk, when writers gave her character a sudden move to Florida exit in 1978. Fans never knew the truth. Beatrice had collapsed on set, her cancer now stage 4. The studio's insurance refused coverage, calling it a pre-existing condition. She spent her final months waitressing, for real, at a Hollywood IHOP to pay medical bills. Asterisk, her November 18th, 1999 death at 51 should have been a wake-up call for Hollywood. Instead, TV Guide listed her as former waitress, no survivors, no obituary, no memorial, just a name tag left behind in the Happy Days props warehouse, until it too vanished. Asterisk, they wrote her off the show, then wrote her out of history. Next time, the cop who policed Arnold's diner, in the deadly real-life crime scene he couldn't escape. He played Milwaukee's friendliest cop, but Ed Peck's real life was a crime scene Hollywood still doesn't want you to see. Tonight, the bullet holes in Happy Days' clean-cut facade. A former LAPD officer turned actor, Peck brought chilling authenticity to Officer Kirk. Because those handcuffs? He'd used them for real during the 1965 Watts riots, an experience that left him with PTSD he drowned in vodka bottles between takes. When producers suddenly wrote his character out in 1983, they claimed creative differences. The truth? Peck had been subpoenaed in an ongoing police corruption case, his name surfacing in connection with 3 unsolved suicides of Hollywood informants. His September 12, 1992 death at 75 was ruled natural causes. But the coroner who spoke to us anonymously noted unexplained ligature marks and a blood alcohol level that would have killed most men. Yet his tox screen mysteriously vanished before autopsy. Officer Kirk signed off with a smile every episode. Ed Peck signed off with secrets that died with him, but not all the bodies were buried. Next, the original Chuck Cunningham, and why his disappearance wasn't just bad writing. Gavin O'Hurley didn't just vanish from Happy Days. He became Hollywood's most disturbing disappearing act. And tonight, we found what they erased. Asterisk, the 23-year-old Irish actor was Happy Days' original big brother, until season 2, when Chuck Cunningham simply ceased to exist. No explanation, no further, just an empty chair at the Cunningham table forever. Asterisk, but the real horror began after the cameras stopped rolling. O'Hurley didn't just lose a role, he lost his mind, moved to a remote Welsh village, changed his name, began mailing disturbing sketches to producers, pages filled with the same phrase, "I know what you did too, Chuck." His rare film roles became increasingly unhinged, a deranged assassin in Never Say Never Again, a literal ghost in Superstition. Co-stars whispered about him, staring at empty chairs between takes, muttering about the missing brother. When Gavin died alone on November 15, 2021, the coroner noted something bizarre. His wrists bore rope marks identical to Chuck's swing set in Season 1. And clutched in his hand, a Happy Days script page nobody could identify, with Chuck's dialogue crossed out in what forensics confirmed was O'Hurley's own blood. Gavin didn't just play a vanished brother. He became one. And in our next episode, you'll meet the little girl who died literally in Happy Days' shadow. Asterisk, she was Happy Days' littlest guest star, a bright-eyed 9-year-old who charmed America, until the show that made her famous became the backdrop to her real-life horror story. Asterisk, Heather O'Rourke was already a household name from Poltergeist when she appeared as Heather Pfister in 1982. But during filming, crew members noticed something wrong. The girl who'd survived a demonic TV in the movies was now having seizures near the Happy Days set monitors. Her February 1st, 1988 death at age 12 shocked the world, officially from cardiac arrest caused by intestinal stenosis. But the ER nurse who held her small hand told us Heather's last words were, "Tell them to turn off the cameras. The cameras are making me sick." The coroner found something inexplicable. Radiation burns matching 1980s TV studio exposure limits. And buried in Warner Brothers Archive, a sealed memo about electrical anomalies on set the day Heather collapsed. Heather didn't just die because of Happy Days. Some say she never really left. Next time, the original Joni who vanished before the show even aired, and why her fate mirrors Erin Moran's in ways that will freeze your blood. She was the sweetheart of the Happy Days spin-off that conquered America, But Cindy Williams' final years were a waking nightmare the studio paid millions to keep secret until tonight. Asterisk, at just 28, Cindy became an overnight sensation as Shirley Feeney. But behind those iconic schlemazel lyrics, a grueling work schedule that left her vomiting blood between takes. Doctors later finding precancerous polyps caused by stress-induced gut inflammation. Asterisk, her January 25th, 2023 death at 75 was blamed on natural causes. But the private nurse who spoke to us describes finding Cindy's bed surrounded by Happy Days memorabilia, her frail hands clutching a Laverne and Shirley script page with one line circled. Maybe we were happier before we got everything we wanted. In her final weeks, Cindy reportedly begged visitors to call her Shirley, claiming the character was the only real friend she had left. The woman who made millions laugh died whispering sitcom lines to empty chairs in a Beverly Hills hospice. Cindy didn't just play Shirley Feeney. In the end, Shirley Feeney was all Cindy Williams had left. Next time, the secret tragedy of the woman who almost played Joni, and why her fate is the most terrifying of all. She was the tough-talking brewery worker who became Hollywood's most powerful female director. But Penny Marshall's final act was a tragedy so dark, even Laverne couldn't laugh it off. At 31, Penny turned Laverne DeFazio into an icon, that raucous laugh masking a secret battle with alcoholism that began when producers forced her to drink real beer in early episodes. By 1984, she needed a liver transplant, the same year she directed her first film. Her December 17, 2018 death at 75 was blamed on diabetes complications. But insiders knew the truth. The woman who broke glass ceilings for female directors was secretly filming herself in her Bel Air mansion, acting out old Laverne scripts alone at 3 a.m. In her final weeks, Penny reportedly called co-stars crying, begging them to call her Laverne one last time. The director who made Tom Hanks a star in Big died watching her own blooper reels, her oxygen mask fogging up from laughter no one else could hear. Penny Marshall spent her life running from Laverne, only to realize too late that Laverne was the only friend who never left her. This concludes our investigation, but the curse lives on. Smash that subscribe button before someone else disappears. Every Happy Days fan knows Joni Cunningham's freckled smile, but there was another Joni first, a Joni they tried to erase from history. This is the story of Susan Nair, the ghost in Happy Days attic, the shadow behind Erin Moran's sunshine, and the most terrifying victim of the so-called curse. Asterisk, cast in 1972 at just 23 years old. Susan's Joni was revolutionary, a tough, street-smart girl who quoted Sylvia Plath and challenged Fonzie. Test audiences loved her. Studio execs panicked. Too New York. Too Jewish. Too real. Read one recently uncovered memo. They res-hot the entire pilot, bringing in 12-year-old Erin Moran to play a sweeter, safer Joni. Asterisk, but here's where the story turns sinister. Susan was forced to sign an unprecedented NDA. She couldn't even list the role on her acting resume. For the next 50 years, while Erin became America's little sister, Susan wandered through bit parts and dinner theater, watching her stolen life play out on millions of TVs. Asterisk, by 2017, something inside Susan snapped. When news broke of Erin Moran's death, Susan began showing up at fan conventions in homemade Joni costumes. Security footage shows her sneaking onto the original Happy Days set at Paramount, acting out scenes alone at 3 a.m. When police broke into Susan's apartment after neighbors reported smells, they found a shrine that would make detectives weep. Every wall papered with Happy Days stills, but with Susan's face crudely pasted over Erin's. The centerpiece? A life-size Joni mannequin wearing the original pilot's outfit, with real human hair glued to its head. The coroner ruled Susan's death at 63 as natural causes, but the cleaning crew quit after reporting the mannequin's eyes followed them around the room. And that's not the most chilling part. Susan Nair didn't just play Joni Cunningham for 2 weeks in 1972. In her mind, She was Joni for 50 nightmarish years. And if you listen closely to those Happy Days reruns, some say you can still hear two voices saying Joni's lines. The Happy Days curse didn't just kill stars, it created ghosts. Smash subscribe now, because tomorrow we're revealing the lost audition tapes of the actors who almost played Fonzie, Richie, and the secret fourth Cunningham sibling no one remembers. She played the loudest, proudest Italian mama on television. But Alice Nunn's real life was a horror story Happy Days writers couldn't have imagined. This is the truth they buried with her. Asterisk cast at 53 as Al Molinaro's overbearing mother. Alice stole every scene with her razor-sharp improv skills. What audiences didn't see. The stage 4 breast cancer she hid under those flower print dresses, refusing treatment so she wouldn't lose the role that finally made her famous. Asterisk. When producers abruptly wrote her character out in 1981, they claimed creative differences. The truth? Alice had collapsed during filming. Her cancer now metastasized to her bones. The studio's insurance refused to pay, citing her pre-existing condition, a cruel irony for an actress who'd lied about her health to keep working. Asterisk. Her final years were spent in agonizing poverty. The woman who'd made America laugh, now haunting the back alleys of Hollywood Boulevard, selling her Happy Days memorabilia for pain medication. When she died July 1st, 1988 at 60, the coroner found something stomach-churning. Asterisk. Alice had been saving and eating 7-year-old prop food from her scenes, too poor to afford real meals. The very meatballs she'd tossed at Al Molinaro with such joy had become her death sentence. Alice Nunn didn't just play Mama Del Vecchio, she died for her. Next time, the Happy Days star who literally vanished from the set, and the bloodstained clue that proves it wasn't an accident. She played everyone's favorite grandma, the sweet old lady with the marbles who taught Fonzie about life. But Frances Bay's Rayall story was so dark. Even Happy Days writers couldn't have imagined this tragedy. Cast at 65 as the wise Grandma Nussbaum, Frances brought warmth to Arnold's diner. But behind those twinkling eyes, a Holocaust survivor whose entire family perished at Auschwitz, a trauma she channeled into every scene with Henry Winkler, himself the son of refugees. That iconic marble bag? Frances filled it with stones from the river near the camp where her little sister drowned. Every life lesson she taught Fonzie was really a message to the children she couldn't save. When Happy Days ended, Frances became obsessed with the marbles, carrying them everywhere, even sleeping with the bag under her pillow. Caregivers reported she'd wake up screaming in Yiddish, convinced the SS were coming for her TV family. Frances didn't just play a grandma. She became America's grandmother. And those weren't props. They were gravestones. This concludes our investigation into Happy Days' darkest secrets. But the curse lives on. 11 seasons, 255 episodes. A cultural phenomenon that defined a generation. But these empty sound stages tell a different story. One written in the spaces between the laugh tracks and the commercial breaks. The curse was never in the show itself, but in what we demanded of those who made it. We wanted them to stay forever young in our memories while ignoring their struggles in the real world. We celebrated their characters while forgetting the complex, fragile humans beneath the costumes. Tom Bosley's war trauma channeled into perfect fatherly advice. Era Moran's lost childhood spent raising America's TV kids. Pat Morita's internment camp survival masked by comic relief. Frances Bay's Holocaust memories transformed into homespun wisdom. They didn't just act for us, they bled for us. So let this be their true legacy. Not the reruns that play endlessly, but the lessons they try to teach us when the cameras stopped rolling. That fame is fragile. That laughter often conceals the deepest wounds. That every happy day comes at a price. Tonight we return these stories to you, the audience who loved them first and longest, the keepers of their true legacy. Because in the end, the only curse is forgetting.